I think everyone can hear me, right? The different sides of the room. So I have to just hover around in the middle because they are doing the recording for the session. So don't mind if there's any question, you can ask directly by putting out a hand. I will stop to answer your question. But of course, if your question is a bit long or your question is more relevant to your personal situation, then we can have a conversation after the talk, a short one. Okay. So I see some familiar faces over here. Thanks everyone for coming. So today will be the last session for the year for the in the estate series succession series that we have every year. Every month, generally, we have one session. One of us, which is the ESP, will be conducting the session. Today, I will be talking a bit more about. So the agenda for today, right, will be to go through some very basic things about having a will and how does a will affect your estate planning and things like that. So I added in quite a bit of articles, quite a bit of case studies. Some are very established, solid cases that we can learn from. Some are from more current situations whereby we can also take reference in different pointers that we want to cover. So elements of estate planning, the key personnel to appoint when you're thinking of how to do this whole planning, how to write your will, whether you want to do a trust eventually, and so on and so forth. Who are the key personnel that you need to consider? How do you consider this personnel? What are the factors that you need to think about? Distribution to beneficiaries will be what I will be focusing in on quite a bit today. How to manage the inheritance for them, how to protect the inheritance for them, and so on and so forth. Because beneficiaries could be your spouse, could be your children, could be somebody else in the family, could be even your parents who are still around today. Okay, so there are many good case studies that we can learn from. If the planning is not done well enough, when they inherit, actually they might face more challenges and difficulty than what you can imagine. So some case studies to share today. Solutions and strategy, of course, we'll be touching very briefly about some of the possible solutions that you can pursue to solve all the considerations and issues that is brought up before that. Then, of course, the next step, what you can pursue to do. Okay, so disclaimer, a very simple one. Information in this presentation is very generic. It's not meant to be taken as your personal consideration. Estate planning will be very different from every family, every single individual. Every family beliefs and culture and philosophy is entirely different. So not to take anything here as legal advice, best to consult one of us when you eventually decided to work with Precepts. Okay, I just want to start the talk by having a very simple research done up by this company called, this wealth management company called St. James. They actually done this survey in the middle of COVID in 2022 and saying that actually 59%, right, mentioned that wealth and succession planning, or sometimes we call it estate planning in specific, is a source of stress. So whenever they thought about this topic, they already feel quite stressed. They already would think that it's very difficult, very complicated. They don't know where to start. They don't know who to talk to. Do they go to a law firm? Do they use the template that they found online? Or do they even want to write their own will themselves? And very interestingly, but unfortunately, 55% of the correspondent mentioned that this process or even talking about this topic among the family members already created some arguments and disharmony. So I hope for all that came today, I hope you're just at the stress level. You're not at the disharmony level yet. Okay? If today you come forward because you want to have a little bit of clarity about what you need to think about when you're planning for your family, I think you will walk away with something, hopefully to relieve some of your stress that you come before today. Okay? So I just want to start off with this very simple chart. This chart might or might not be familiar to you. Oh, by the way, please feel free to take pictures. It's okay one. So again, it's not to be taken as legal advice. You can feel free to take any picture. This chart is the Singapore's Intestate Succession Act 146. Yeah. Okay, don't worry, make yourself comfortable. Yeah, so this chart basically tells you, actually everybody in Singapore, right, you like or don't like, actually everybody has some sort of a will done up already. Because if you don't have a will, actually our Singapore government, our law has already a will for you. Okay? So in this chart, as you can see, self-explanatory, we go row by row, but I won't go through everything, just a quick one. If you have a spouse that survives you, if you are married, you don't have children, you have a wife or a husband, actually the wife or husband will take the entire thing from you. Even you don't have to write the will. So sometimes people will ask me, then actually I have this thing in place already. Then actually, if I don't mind to give to my spouse, do I still need to write a will? You see where I'm coming from? Some of these questions I'll be going through in a talk later. Issue could mean your biological child, could also mean your adopted child as well. Issue, but you're married with a spouse. Your spouse don't survive you, but you only left with issue. That means maybe of a very senior age, your spouse have left you earlier than expected, you're left with children. Actually, everything goes to the children. The moment you're married and you have children, okay, the moment you're married and have children, row number 4, spouse and issue. Fully to issue is no spouse, that one we know already. But I just want to point out to you, the moment you're married and you have children, no matter how young or how old your children is, actually your original parents, your father and mother, from both sides, your wife and yourself, automatically is being left out already. Okay? So here comes some consideration. Okay, so I just throw in a case study over here that happened not too long ago. Yeah, so okay, so this situation is that the man passed away, leaving the elderly mother and also a child. The man was a divorcee, having a child. The mother unfortunately walked out of the marriage when the child was very young, a little boy, a toddler. So the mother is called Madam Rasa Lingam. She was 82 years old when this thing happened because her son passed away in the accident. So the son has a HDB flat. The HDB flat is actually in Tanjong Pagar. So the mother actually went to court with the grandson. So the grandmother went to court with the grandson. The son in the middle passed away already. The grandmother went to court with the grandson because the grandson says that all my father's assets are my asset. The grandmother said, no, because your father keep mentioning to me before he passed on, for the last 14 years, he keep mentioning to me that this house is going to be hers before, if he passes on before her. So the father keep mentioning about that. But sadly, in this case, because the father didn't write a will, the court actually simply follow the previous slide, the law of intestacy. If you have a mother, you have a child, you have no spouse because they already divorced, actually 100% will go to your child, nothing to your mother. So the mother at 82 years old is having a situation whereby she has to vacate the house that she has been staying in the last more than 10 years because the son wants to take over and sell the property. So things like that happen, I will imagine, quite frequently, but maybe not every case is pursued in court. That's why it's not in the Straits Times, so on and so forth. Okay? So I give you another example. Just now we're talking about a very senior lady. Now it's in a situation of a young couple. Okay? Young couple with no children. So in this case, Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill, yeah. Let's pretend the female is called Jill, okay? They actually apply a BTO together, they stay together. Both side parents are still alive, but they went on a holiday together and very unfortunately perished in a common disaster. That means they died together, be on a road accident or be it, hopefully not in the air accident, but both died at the same time. So in a law in Singapore, if you perish together, the court will always deem that the older person passes on first. So why does this matter? That the who die first or who die later, the police, whether they write in the timing, do you die at the hospital, do you die at the accident site itself? All this timing are very, very critical. Because all this timing will actually determine how the asset will flow between the couple and whether the asset will reach each other's parents in the first place. Okay? So in this case, right, the younger spouse is deemed to die first. In Singapore, no children, 50% goes to the spouse, 50% goes to his own parents. Okay? If they have a children, if they have a child, 50% child, 50% spouse. In this case, the older husband died first, the younger one survived. The younger one also passed away, but passed away later on. So most of the older person's estate goes to the wife, and from the wife over there, it might go towards the wife's side of the family. In general, there's nothing right or wrong, but in general, if they have a will in place, they can decide in this kind of very unfortunate situation of a common disaster, who you want to direct the asset and how it can be addressed. Okay? Worst case scenario, if there are children around, who will take care of the children, who will be the guardian, how will the children be taken care of, all these questions should be addressed before such an unfortunate situation happen. The question is also, if the husband and the wife or the deceased young couple bought a property, but the property might be funded by one side of the couple's parents, that might be even a bit more complicated. In this case, for example, a simple example, what if the property is funded by the older spouse's parent? The property might not go back to the older spouse's parents or any part of it because the older spouse doesn't have a will. You see where I'm coming from? So whenever, if you're thinking to help your son or your daughter to buy a house, or you're thinking to do any form of gifting for the younger couple at home, maybe these are some of the things that you want to take note. Maybe if you want to give, you might want your children to, anyway, they are married, be it they have children or don't have children, it's always good for them to encourage them to have a will themselves. Okay? Okay, so pitfalls of not having a will. I will not go through in depth each of the situations because I think it's quite self-explanatory. I think all of you here already knew some sort or other. When you don't have a will, it's not going to be a good situation. That's why tonight you all decided to take some time to spend here to see how it can better off your estate planning. So the most common one I would say, whenever we don't have a will, of course, we have seen cases of mistreatment, we have seen cases of stepchild is excluded, but those are maybe a bit more or less common. The most common thing that we see, right, it's already at the very beginning, the very first icon on the bottom right here. Who volunteers to court? If you don't have a will, if the person don't have a will, somebody need to volunteer to court, apply through a lawyer to be the administrator. Who take on this role? Some will want to take on this role because there might be a lot at stake. Some also might be a situation whereby nobody want to do the job because they know that there's nothing at stake. But eventually, if you don't do the job well or nobody volunteers at all, the rest of the family of the deceased might be the one eventually suffering. That's what I can say. Then very commonly also, you look at the extreme left-hand side of the whole diagram, the schedule of asset. So we have so many clients, I have so many clients that come to me, they already have a will, they are thinking to rewrite their will or to make it better and so on and so forth. Then, of course, we ask them to bring along their will. Then very interestingly, right, today we still see some wills done up very long ago. They still write down their bank account number and all the details inside the will. So I asked the client, how many of these bank account numbers or how many of these assets are still relevant today? Actually, a lot are already closed down or consolidated. They open a new one and so on and so forth. So usually for precepts practice, we don't write such details of the asset in the will itself because all your bank account, all your asset and all this are actually very dynamic. If you write inside the will itself, then actually you can imagine yourself coming back to precept to edit your will every now and then. And every time you edit your will, you need to pay an amendment fee. Okay? So our practice here, we don't write specifically the account number per se. We put it into a separate documentation called a schedule of asset, which will encourage you to update at least every year together with your will. But the will's content might not be updated if there's no change in circumstances. But the schedule of asset, if there's any change, you can amend as it is. Okay? So schedule of asset is very important. Usually in the administration or the probate process, this is where the delay comes. Situations whereby client, my age group call me saying that their elderly parent passed away. Sometimes I have an incident, the father passed away overseas. Then the son called me, the son of my friend called me and asked me, how do I even start? This is like 15 years ago. So I told the son, maybe you can consider to check what are the letters that sent to your father from your postage mail and so on and so forth. Then we can identify maybe he have a banking account with DBS or whatsoever. We can work from there. But imagine today, I will imagine most of our letter corresponding from either the bank, insurance company, or whichever financial institutes that we're dealing with, most are in soft copy and most are directed to our email. Can you imagine you pass away, you be it right away, you don't write a will. Imagine you didn't do a proper schedule of asset, then your family member don't even know the password to your laptop. Or how do they authorize your face when you're already gone on your handphone? You see where I'm coming from? Everything might be just stuck. And eventually, the people that need to do the work will be the probate lawyers or the administration lawyers. They will write to all the financial institutes one by one. And do you think the financial institutes will reply them immediately after the first try? You see where I'm coming from? Each letter that the lawyer writes out, they will charge you a fee. So this is when the delay, this is when the confusion, this is when the frustration always comes in. Okay? We have seen wills written and prepared by the top law firms in Singapore. But when we ask them where's the schedule, I said nobody has them prepared well. Okay? Okay, so understanding estate planning, what are the considerations? So I just want to highlight very, very importantly, estate planning is not just about writing a will. Okay, everybody will think that estate planning, I write a will, then settle. Okay, I have a wife, I have children, I just give to them wanted. Then my job is done. I can't say that that is wrong. I can't say that that is wrong. If you have put through your mind all the different factors that you consider, then your conclusion is of such wanted, then that's perfectly fine. But often when we say estate planning, actually there's quite a lot of considerations that we need to think through. Coming very first to be who will be the person executing your will, who will be the substitute, who will be the beneficiaries, are they mature enough to handle your money? Are they in situations whereby they might be legally or financially at risk when they inherit your inheritance? All these questions are what we will ask you when you do your estate planning with Precepts. So just to give you a very simple idea of some of the questions that we will ask over here, these 16 different boxes. Type of asset ownership, common disaster, clause, so on and so forth. Okay, so it might have the same outcome that you have a will eventually, but your will definitely will be a very well thought through one, whereby the outcome is a consideration whereby you have already factored in all these considerations. So we always start off with the meeting asking the client, what are your assets or where are your assets? So these are the very standard ones. Today, we are increasingly seeing digital asset, okay, over at the bottom right, your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, your whatsoever. Your children might have it, you yourself might have it. How do we do the planning for your digital asset is also one key topic that we're talking about. Okay, at a very minimum beginning, assets are usually very categorically grouped into two different classes. One whereby it's will be forming part of the estate. Okay, so if you don't understand what I mean by estate, so estate is a word that we use to represent what the deceased person have in terms of the assets. Okay, so we can call that the estate. So very simply at the top bird's eye view, what might be frozen? Why frozen? Because when your person passes away, be it you got a will, you got no will, you need to go through the lawyer, apply to court. If you have a will, it's called the probate. If you don't have the will, it's called the administration. Okay? In this process, typically it will take many, many months. I have personally seen families, even with a will, the process took years, which I cannot comprehend why, but some things are just not well ironed out. Yeah. So in this process, whenever the banks, the insurance company, or any financial institutes are aware that the client, the deceased is no longer around, they will actually freeze all your account. So that's what we mean by the assets are frozen on your right-hand side. On your left-hand side, later I'll go through one example. It's an interesting situation. If you have insurance, if you have a joint account, if you have a joint tenancy in a property, sometimes the asset might not be frozen. Your surviving person, your surviving spouse, your surviving children, your surviving fellow owner might be able to take over the asset. Later, I will go through with you one interesting example. Okay, so this is an article on Straits Times that's not too long ago, talking about the next example which I'm going to share with you. The next example is a very common one this year. A very wealthy doctor passes away. The doctor has a wife that's surviving him, has 4 children. Okay, so what happened is that the case, okay, I can jump straight to the case when I come back to here again. So the doctor who passed away is called Dr. Koo, 3 other children, then also got wife. So there are 4 person in the situation over here. So the doctor's widow and the eldest daughter wanted to take his money that he has joint account with the 2 of them and tell the other remaining 2 children, this joint account that we have with Papa, the doctor, and the husband, we cannot consider it as part of the will because it's under a joint account. If I can go back the slide over here. If you can see on the right-hand side, joint account with surviving account holder, by right, the surviving account owner should take over. By right, by right. Later I'll go through this case and you know that actually it depends. Okay, so Dr. Koo, interestingly, he added the wife and the daughter's name into the account after he was diagnosed to have cancer. That was in 2019. And in the same month, 2 weeks later, so let's have a visualization of the chronological order of events. So in November, he got cancer. Then he a bit worried. Then he immediately, because the bank account got 4 million, quite a lot of money. So he immediately asked the wife and the eldest daughter, "Hey, come be my joint account owner." Then 2 weeks later, the doctor go to a law firm and edited his will. Inside the will, he states that inside this joint account, or 3-person joint account, I want to give 80,000 to my wife. Okay? I give 80,000 to my wife. Simple. Then he even tell the lawyer, my bank right now, I'm upgraded to treasury or whatsoever, but the bank's address is different. So not only I want you to update the bank account, I want you to update the bank address as well. So at this age, 2019, before he passed away, although he's diagnosed with cancer, he's still very sharp, very, very meticulous. Then after he amended his will, 1 year later, he passed on. Okay? So the question is, right, by right, if we go back to the slide over here, the account that is jointly owned with the eldest daughter and the wife shouldn't be considered as the rest of the asset, because the rest of the asset he wants to give to the 3 children, one third, equal share. By right, the account should be taken out, then we consolidate everything else, then we give to the children, one third. But so this is what the other 2 children argued, that mother and the eldest daughter shouldn't take the 4 million. But the court actually says, very interestingly, Dr. Koo mentions specifically all his assets were to be given to the 3 children in equal share, all his assets, including any bank accounts, to be given to the 3 children in equal share. And the court says that by being joint account owner doesn't automatically mean that you are the surviving owner, you can take all. The court says that if you examine the contract with your bank when you open your bank account, the survivorship that the bank is referring doesn't mean ownership. The survivorship that the bank is referring is more relevant for the operation of the bank so that the bank will know who to take instructions from after one of the account owner passes away. So I repeat myself. The judge say that the survivorship doesn't equate to ownership. It doesn't mean that I open a joint account with my son will be the ultimate owner. If I don't write a will, the son usually will become the owner if there's no contest. Do you all follow me? In this case, he did write a will, very specifically clarify that every of his asset, all the accounts, including joint account, will be divided one third, one third, one third to the three children. But the daughter and the mother went to contest. So the judge deemed said that, look at your bank accounts opening terms and condition. Survivorship is more for the bank's operation. It doesn't mean ownership. Okay? So if you are not sure, you can ask your banker. I mean, if your bank account has $4 million cash, I think it's worth the effort. Or either that, you can simply indicate very clearly in your will, in this particular example, although it's a joint account, you can clearly indicate that this joint account that I have with my wife and my children, the money inside is not meant for the surviving, it's meant for other people, for example. Okay? So luckily for this doctor, cool, he did make this arrangement. Okay, so when we talk about asset, the next thing we always need to talk about would be the key personnel that we have inside your estate planning. Namely, for the very, very beginning, we have these two terminologies called the executor and also the trustee. Okay, as you can see over here, the roles are a bit different. The roles are a bit different. But having said that, most of the time, the people that we do the planning for, the same person might also execute both roles. Okay, so for example, I have a wife, I have two young kids. My spouse is my executor / my trustee. Sometimes because of the trustee's roles might be a very long duration. For example, the trustee might be involved in managing the money until the kids turn 25 years old. So if the trustee's role is of a very long duration, sometimes you might not want the executor and the trustee to be the same person because the executor might not want to keep the money for so long. So it could be the same. It could also be a different person depending on your situation. Okay? Okay, so the consideration of the issue would be that in this case, the long detail short, this person passes away. The grandmother passes away, the old lady passes away. She has a HDB that's worth 540,000. So this auntie, she actually wrote a will. So auntie quite good. She wrote a will clearly. I want this HDB when I die, go and sell, then distribute equally among all my children. So Madam Chin passed away due to pneumonia in 2011, and she appointed, very logically, she appointed her eldest son, Richard, 57 years old. Chi Woon Seng and Richard Chi, two of them to be the executor. They are also the beneficiaries because they are their children, the auntie's children. So what is unfortunate in this case is that actually when the grandmother wrote the will, she actually survived her two other daughters. You see, daughter one, daughter two. Daughter one and daughter two actually passed away before the mother passed away. Okay? So logically, okay, I cannot say logically. It depends on what auntie wants. Most of the time, if the will is well written, you will describe the situation. If my two children passes away, do daughter one and daughters two share, goes to their own family, or goes to my other surviving children? In this case, I guess, be it she didn't mention that, describe that, or the two executor decided not to follow that. So what happened is that the two brothers sold out the property because the two sisters has already passed away. The two brothers just split the money among themselves. Okay? Until one of the daughter's children and the husband found out and went to sue the two brothers. So long story short, the figure in question is about $500,000, but the legal fees over the whole period, right, was about the same amount also. Yeah, so things like that happen quite frequently. When the estate is $500,000, people go to court. If the estate is 5 million, 10 million, 15 million, I don't know whether the family will go to court. Yeah, but sometimes maybe the legal fees are also a bit different when you look at estate value. So you can see the comments, Mr. Pei, which is one of the daughters, that means the second generation, the husband, who is a taxi driver, said that they won the case. The court deems that the brother should have shared with the deceased sister's family, but they are also very sad that all the money have been spent away as legal fees already. Okay? So things like that happen. Moral of the story, actually we don't know, and we cannot say the two brothers are at fault. I repeat myself, we don't know and we cannot say that the two brothers are at fault. Because of course the newspaper didn't mention in detail or definitely didn't mention the contents of the will. Because the two brothers might really innocently thought that, hey, my sibling passed away already, ma. Then we are the only children of my mother. Then we split off. You see where I'm coming from? So sometimes the executor you appoint, they genuinely might not know what they need or need not to do. And they just do to their best effort, which might not be your intention. Okay? The second case is obviously a bad intent. So the second case is there are two brothers, two uncle, and one of the brother passed away. Okay? The brother who passed away didn't have a will. So the other brother volunteered to go to a lawyer, applied for the letter of administration. Okay? But this other brother, this other real brother, blood brother, right, actually went to take the money, go and gamble, go and invest, and lost most of it. Okay? Your own brother. I mean, yeah. And he just kept quiet. Until many, many years later, right, the deceased brother's daughter, that means the surviving uncle's niece, come to ask him, hey, how come Papa passed away, you're the administrator, how come until now there's nothing? Then that comes to light that actually the brother have gambled away all the money. Yeah. So things like that happen. It's from your real brother and your siblings. We are not here to say you shouldn't trust anybody, but very unfortunate situations like that happen. Then we look at professional people. Okay, we look at professional people. So this lawyer was in a serious, big situation because he is a lawyer of a law firm that has an escrow account. So if you don't know what's an escrow account, right? Escrow account means the client of the law firm put the money in and ask the law firm to hold the money for the client until a certain event happen. Most of the time, the certain event happening, right, could be the client's company goes into merger and acquisition, M&A case, and so on and so forth. Then only when the merger and acquisition come to the end, finish already, then the escrow account will disperse money to the seller, so on and so forth. So this lawyer, he actually disappeared with $33 million. Okay? He disappeared with $33 million. He actually authorized an outflow of $33 million from the escrow account. And obviously, the client didn't see the money again. Then in another case, an individual trustee. Remember just now we go to the slide whereby there's an executor, there's a trustee. A trustee's role is to hold the money for the beneficiary. But in this case, the trustee is a person. A human being, a trustee, we call that an individual trustee. Actually also pocket 100,000 from the trust and also disappeared. Okay? So the common trend that we've seen after reviewing many, many wills, please do take a picture of this slide. If you have a will, go back and take a look at your will. Are you inside one of the common trend? We put our spouse and sibling to be the executor. Again, nothing wrong with that. But of course, you got to put into some consideration if your spouse is also very senior when something happens to you. Or what if your spouse is really not in the mental capacity to do all this admin work when they lose you, so on and so forth. Who's the contingency, backup, executor, and trustee? What about common disaster? You go for a family holiday together. You, your children, even your grandchildren go on a holiday together. If anything were to happen, how do all the families' assets intertwine with each other? Very confusing. Okay? How to intertwine with each other and how eventually who will the assets reach? Then very often we also conveniently, right, forgotten the part about the inconvenience. So some of our clients, they come to us, they appointed an executor. Then after we sign the whole thing already, then we ask them, oh, I'm sure that you asked your brother to already before you putting his name as executor, right? Then the client look at us, huh? Need to ask one, meh? You see where I'm coming from? Your brother might or might not know that he's being arrowed. But if you or you have your family around, members around you or your friends around you who undergo a probate process before, administration process before, you realize that, wow, the process is quite tedious on there. You need to run to a law firm like so many times, prepare a lot of things, then the lawyer can apply for the grant of probate, and you're only at stage one there. After the grant of probate comes back to the court order comes back to you, right, you still need to now settle all the different assets. And what if your family members that pass away has assets in many countries, in overseas? Well, then you're going to have a big task ahead. If you're one of the beneficiary, then okay lah, you have a bit of vested interest to go and clear everything so that you can get your money. But imagine you're not one of the beneficiary leh, because you cannot erupt by somebody that you don't even know. You one of your siblings. Then your work is so busy, you have one family, and you still need to do all these things for your maybe brother or sister. Yeah, it's a very, very daunting thing to do. So good practices cannot safely assume that your executor can perform. You must really consult them, think carefully. Wow, my son, for example, is a lawyer. I don't even see him once in a month for a meal. Can he, although being a lawyer, can he be the best person to be the executor for my will? Or is it my younger daughter who has a more 9 to 5 job be in a better position? Things like that. Okay? Okay, so Precept, we are a trust company. Hopefully by now you know. Precept has a trust license from MAS. So we are also being able to be appointed as the executor, be it the primary main executor to do all the work for your family, or we can also be the backup executor. So for example, I trust my wife fully, I want her to do the job. But just in case my wife is not in the mental capacity to do, Precept can come in to replace her. I already made provision for that in the will. So this is not something we can do. And of course, being the professional doing the work, we know the details, we know the technicalities. We generally is a lot more efficient than somebody that is not in the trade. So likely we will save on the trips that we run to our partners and so on and so forth. Okay. Another important appointment if the family has young children is of course the appointment of a guardian. Okay, so now we know executor, now we know trustee, we know the executor could be trustee depending on the situation. Then who is the guardian? So I give you a simple example. Let's say the husband and the wife stays in West Coast, the husband stays in East Coast. Okay. The wife's family, because they stay in West Coast, the wife's family is naturally in West Coast, and the husband's family is in East Coast. The children, now they have their own family, they have their own house, they also stay at East Coast. Okay. So husband's side, all East Coast one. Then husband's children, husband and wife's children goes to the school in East Coast. Will you, if possible, both sides of the grandparents are willing to be the guardian to take care of the children day to day? By convenience, logically, you would think that by proximity, by logistics, maybe I name the one in the East Coast to take care of my children will be easier, right? Yeah. So things like that you might want to consider. Of course, we've seen cases like that before. No mention about anything. Road accident especially, very dangerous. Road accident is one of the most common situations of a common disaster. Although we see a lot of air traffic accidents, but actually traveling by air is a lot safer than traveling by road, okay? So road accident is always what we see. And if there's no mentioning at all, and the children survive, well, this is the worst case that we want it to happen, okay? They don't even know whether they are able to afford legal fees at all to administer the parents' estate. Okay, so we spent the last 45 minutes to talk about the framework, what you need to look at, the key appointment holders, what kind of asset is there, what you need to consider. Some examples of a joint asset might not be the surviving and so on and so forth. Fundamentally, this diagram is to tell you the outcome that we want to arrive. It's we want to maximize what you have and not let them leak away unnecessarily. Okay? Be it if you're a business person, if you're self-employed, or be it you're a professional, you might have some professional indemnity, professional duties. For example, if you're a lawyer here or if you're a tax consultant, sometimes due to your nature of work, you might have all this consideration. Later, I'll share with you some examples. Okay. Would you like to receive 2 million in the form of an inheritance? Or do you prefer to receive 10,000 per month for the rest of your life? This is an important question. We always get very mixed outcomes. I won't ask you to raise your hand to indicate which one you prefer. Think about this question, because this question will be likely what you also will think about when you're doing up your estate plan. Whatever assets that you have, your investments, your properties, and so on and so forth, anything that's liquid asset, do you want to give to your spouse, your children in a lump sum manner, or do you want to provide for them monthly over a period of time? If I were to ask a parent whether they will want to receive a lump sum, if I were to ask a 40 plus years old, 50 years old, most of the time, 60% they will say, I prefer the lump sum, then I can do whatever I want. But if I were to ask the same parent, the same person I'm talking to, do you want to leave your children an income or a lump sum? 100% of the time they will say, I want to give them an income because they don't know how to manage money. Okay? So ask yourself, are you also in such a situation? You trust yourself a bit more than what you trust your children in terms of money management. Okay, so whenever we talk about inheritance, we want to talk about, unfortunately, whether your beneficiaries know how to manage this inheritance. So I don't know why it's always Ferrari. I never seen a Lamborghini in such an article before. But that's not important. Sometimes when you give a young person 500,000, 200,000, don't talk about a million lah. Just give imagine, okay lah. Think back when you're 21 years old. And now you look at the same 100,000. Think back, 21 years old to some might be not too long ago. 21,000 to some might be a bit further away. But think back when you're 21 years old, right? And now, how different do you see the same 100,000? Okay? That will determine how you're going to plan for your children to be. Okay? Then I inserted in, because just an example was talking about giving money or inheriting money because of a young person. Then the young person obviously didn't manage the money, we're going to buy a Ferrari, then do funny things like that. Now, what happens if the beneficiary is an old person? Okay? Okay, no offense. This article just happened to, we're talking about the old man. Later, you will see some talking about a more senior lady. I have so many 60 over years old, be it married or single, expressing this concern. That means I have seen so many family members who are a bit more senior. They tell me, I'm very worried when I die, my wife or my husband might not be able to manage the money. Because things like that happen very, very frequently nowadays. So the article is actually, I think from 2-3 weeks ago, I inserted in just for the talk today. Literally, this is not even a real person. This is generated by AI. Oh, not bad, right? All the guys over here. No need to fight one. Not bad, right? Yeah, literally, on social media or whatever platforms, right? Very attractive looking ladies start to message you. Uh, where are you from? I'm from Singapore. Then the conversation starts from there. Okay? Just now was a man, right? This lady, right? This lady, everybody will know. Okay? They are famous. Who don't know who's Yang Ying, the Chinese tour guide? Everybody knows, right? Yeah. Funny thing, everybody knows, but nobody put this case study into practice, the learning points. The old lady, obviously the whole article, everybody knows the story, cheated by a Chinese tour guide, so on and so forth. But the old lady was actually a widow because the husband, who was a medical doctor, passed away quite a long time ago. And the husband actually left her a very, very big house. Okay. Then she, nothing to do, man, go for holiday, lor. Then got to meet this tour guide and so on and so forth. But the amazing thing is that the tour guide moved into the house that the husband left the old lady and stayed there for like 5 years. You're like, wow, can you imagine the house that you go home to today? The same house you go home to today, touch it when you're gone, right? Or this unknown person can stay in your house. Wow. You will wake up from your grave. Yeah. Stay in the house, never mind, take care of the old lady. Hopefully, lah, we don't know, lah, actually, because the old lady later on was like determined that she is not mentally very sound. But the old lady actually appointed him to be her donee, the lasting power of attorney. Then obviously, after appointing, he did a lot of funny things. He take all the money out, and the money go and buy horse painting. Use $500,000 go and buy his horse painting, but it's actually obviously a fake one that costs $200. Okay, so everybody knows the outcome lah. So unfortunate situations to be in. Then we are also know all this factual information, but again, we are not making use of the data to do our planning for our own family. 2030, which is not so long from here, just 5 years later on, there will be 25% above 65 years old. So Singapore has officially now been known as a super aged society already. Okay? So today you are here, you might not be 65, you might be 65, so on and so forth. But please go back and tell your family members this realization that, hey, all of us are not young already. Or can we do something about estate plan? Talk over a coffee lah. At least start talking lah. Then another one, there are so many of these examples before. Worker killed in an accident just outside Changi Airport. Fundraising happened. They raised about $1 million. The wife received the $1 million. Then suddenly the wife's siblings go to her to do business. And obviously the business didn't turn out well and the wife lost everything lah. And all the children back to square one. Okay? Again, scams. Scams and scams and more scams. Last year, 1.1 billion. 1.1 billion last year. How much will it be 5 years from now? How much will it be 10 years from now? Will it be lower or higher than 1.1 billion? I don't know. We have to ask our Singapore police force. Okay? They are doing their best, but it's just that the scammers are really another level nowadays. Doesn't help that they are using AI to generate more videos or pictures. Okay? This year itself, cryptocurrency scam was already $81 million. Yeah. So really, so what this article was talking about, this article is just, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago. The police have to go and tell a single mother with young kids that this situation, actually, the mother was packing a bag to so-called meet this person that she met online, but all her money is actually gone. So the police had to tell the mother that actually you're a scam victim. Yeah. This slide is really the summary of what I'm going to say later on. So just maybe take a look at the picture. Real estate in your name is a liability. In general, I will not say only real estate. I would say all asset actually sometimes under your name, right, might be a liability eventually. If you get sued, it's exposed. If you die, it's taxed. Right now in Singapore, there's no estate duty. But whether we have estate duty 5, 10, 15 years from now, it depends on how our government is going. We don't know. But there are already talks about wealth tax. There's already talks about global taxation, so on and so forth. If you are divorced, it's a split. If you owe money, the creditor will come and seize your assets. Okay? So anything that is under your name, right, got risk one day. You don't know what will happen. I'll show you a few examples. Okay, again, another Ferrari, unfortunately. In this case, it's very sad because the driver has already passed away, but the pedestrian or the driver's passengers come and sue the driver's estate. Okay? So if the driver's estate got no enough money or didn't plan well enough, then the family members need to chip in to pay off the liability leh. And the swing amount are not small amounts at 1.7 million, 700,000, and so on and so forth. And some of these cases are not settled yet leh. Of course, some they settled behind closed doors lah. Who know this gentleman over here? Eh? Oh, y'all, okay, okay. So he's quite well known lah. Yeah, y'all, if y'all smile, y'all will know him lah. He is not a business owner, he's merely a director. That means he worked very hard. Imagine with me, either yourself or your children work very hard. Then eventually promoted to become a director. Then accidentally, because you didn't check your work too well, or you really trust a very important person in your company, maybe the CFO, then fraud happens in a company. And because you're the director, you sign off without looking through the 100 pages of report. You kena the liability. You see where I'm coming from? So Mr. Goh, you see what the court say I highlighted in red color. Sleepwalking through his time as a director. Wow, very straight to the 一针见血, straight to the point. He at least brought level supervision of the activities of the officer or corporation, shareholders, the judge say. So a director, duty of care, you need to make sure that everything, especially finance related loans, drawdowns, and so on and so forth, right? You better look through the details. You might or might not be in this situation, but your children also might or might not be in this situation. Okay? Another case, I don't know whether y'all know this case. Last year, it was the Singapore history's biggest fraud. Yeah, in the history of Singapore, the biggest fraud. I pray nobody here went to invest because I know of people who invested and they lost obviously every single dollar. And the wife go and invest, wow, very good returns, 8% per month. Jio the husband jio the mother jio the auntie. Wow, the entire jing gang go and invest. Lost 800,000, 900,000. And they are very normal people, staying HDB, normal income and so on and so forth. But literally almost going into depression. The long story short, right, this one is a scammer lah. You see, he bought so many cars. Oh, wow, scammer's life very good. Can drive nice car. Yeah, I don't even drive these cars. Yeah. But the long story short, I want to say again, right, it's not the fraud about the scammer. If you're an investor, it's unfortunate, it's a fraud. The company staff, you look at the right-hand side, the company staff, the directors, right, some, they know that they suspected it's a fraud, but they still went to sign without questioning the 老板. So you ask yourself today, right? If today you go back work, right? Your 老板 asks you to sign something or do something, right? Do you question, you sure or not? Is this a fraud? Because I'm signing My signature is on it, I might have liability I mean, generally people don't really do that, So in this case, literally one of the director, the staff, right, sign, disperse money, the CFO, and so on and so forth. And she now kena and she needs to pay back like 192 million. Right to 592 million. Not easy to find 192 million. So what will happen? Obviously, everybody will become bankrupt. So when you become bankrupt, you cannot go Japan. Now the Sing to Yen is $1 to $120. How many of you are going Japan in this December holiday? You cannot travel for entertainment. When you're bankruptcy, you cannot travel for entertainment. Yeah. The official assignee need to get permission to why you need to go Japan. Yeah, so imagine you or your children do your job well, become promoted to be a director, but just one signature sign out, things like that happen. Same case, but from a different perspective. Okay, I like to talk about this case because the ripple effect is crazy. The ripple effect is crazy. In this slide, what I wanted to share is that, okay, follow the situation. The scam is this guy, the one that drives sports car one. They are a nickel trading company. They tell their investor, oh, I have an Australian nickel miner that can give me very good pricing. We can buy and we can sell to other people and make a profit. That's how the scam happened. So this nickel trading company, right, they also sell this investment to investment managers. So imagine you go to maybe okay, imagine you go to a fund house, you do some investments, ABC Investment Private Limited, you do some investments. We cannot mention any names, you know, a bit sensitive. You invested 100,000. This nickel trading, right, actually, they are at the top. Their investments are sold to institutional investors. And the institutional investors, they from there have personal investors investing into it. And some of these names are top lawyers, partners, founders, are very prominent people who also cannot scam. Because they return 8% per year, too attractive already. A month and not a year. That means per year you get 72%. Every month you put in 100K, every month I give you 8,000. No need to work already. Is that coming from? So you see this lady, right, that started this company called Envision. You see I have 30 staff in Envision and all of them lose their job overnight. This lady that started this company, right, she's an SQ stewardess last time. So she retired, joined the banking, did well in banking, and come out to do her investment company herself. So she really do the due diligence, compliance, everything do properly, right? Because she has a fund. The fund is a commodity fund. Commodity fund buy and sell into nickel, quite logical, ma. Like you buy and sell gold, last year you make a lot of money, ma. So she sold to a lot of investors. She really thought that this is a gem. Wow, my company is going to do very well. And she didn't know that the fund that she sell, right, the source of the fund is a scam. Yeah. So it's very, very crazy nowadays. The ferry driver that had an accident, Bugis Junction there always have accident. So if you go there, be careful, okay? Try to not to go there at night. Be it whatever religion you are in, there always got accident on. This lady, after the long saga with the Ferrari driver's insurer, AXA, finally AXA behind closed door decided to compensate the family. The amount is not disclosed. It's a requirement from AXA. But the deceased taxi driver, when the Ferrari crashed on the taxi driver also passed away. The taxi driver's wife received some money from the compensation of the insurer, but suddenly the auntie's friend, through the son, jio her to invest in China. So if you receive money, suddenly a lot of people come to you. Don't know how they know you got money. Last time you very low profile, go coffee shop, right, drink coffee, right? Nobody talk to you. Suddenly your name come out somewhere, right? Your picture never even come out, right? Then suddenly a lot of people know that you got money. Suddenly a lot of people want to drink coffee with you. You know what I mean? So wrong attention is not a good thing when people know that you got money, especially when you want inside the bank. Hopefully there's no bankers here today. Okay. What will you do if you inherit 2 million cash today? Okay. So the options, you look at it, of course, fictional, but the variations of each option might or might not be real. Hopefully, you will not go and buy a Ferrari, but maybe your dream car is a Ferrari, you're really going to buy a Ferrari. Will you fire your boss to go for a holiday? Depends on your age group. Maybe if you're about to retirement already, give you another 2 million, you will retire. Or will you be very prudent? You use the money. If you're a very prudent, down-to-earth person, you will normally pay down your loans, right? If you're very prudent, you don't go for holiday, you don't buy Ferrari, you pay down your loans. Or you don't know. Then you have a very lovely spouse. Your spouse say, don't know, just put inside a joint account. Or number 5, will you start a brand new account under your personal name, invest the money, but never use the money in your family? Which one will you choose? Okay, again, no need to say the answer out. Okay? When our children receive our inheritance, very, 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 I say with a sigh, very, very unfortunately, sometimes if the inheritance is not managed well, okay, the inheritance might also end up to become matrimonial asset. Okay? So in this case, okay, everybody use WhatsApp here, right? I'm sure, right? Everybody use WhatsApp here, right? WhatsApp got this feature called the disappearing message. I don't know whether you know about this feature called the disappearing message. Actually, quite useful. You know why? The husband, when they receive the money, tell the wife, Oh, this is our money because we're happily married together. Our money. Send a wife message. Then the wife used these messages to ask for matrimonial. So maybe your go back, right? Suddenly you change to disappearing message might be better. Just kidding. Okay. So any return form can be used against you. Very, very unfortunately. Just now wife asked for money, man. Now husband asked for money. See, there are so many of such cases. I only show you 10% only. I have like so many articles in my folder. Again, receive inheritance from father. Maybe lah. I'm speculating lah. It's not written in the article. Maybe the wife received already. She generally not interested in investment. She don't know how to invest. She don't know whether to buy or sell. She just park inside the joint account with the husband, no? Because most of the time, a lot of situations I see, husband a bit more into investment, then wife will just keep it simple, ma. So park inside the joint account. After that, sell already, buy into a house. Then after that, divorce and half gone. This one not my slide. I copy and paste from somebody one. I went for a presentation by she used to be a district judge. Then she turned a lawyer and run her own company. So this is her slide. So I take her slide and use it. I think it's quite survey done. 25% are thinking about a divorce. Oh, I don't know what to say. Okay, so today we're not here to talk about divorce. I'm not a divorce lawyer also. But I have a partner who does all these things, and we refer her quite a fair bit of business already. Yeah, so very unfortunate. Just last year or this year, I can't remember. The number 6 reason that you can use for divorce is in your law today already. So today you can say when you want to divorce, the judge, the court, the lawyer will ask you, why do you want to divorce? What's the basis of the divorce? Last time it's all adultery, you gotta hire a PI. Actually, no need already. Don't you spend all this money already. Now you can just say, we mutually agree that we are not suitable. You can divorce already. So when this thing come out, our dear minister, right? Wow, a lot of people question her. You all know who's the minister in charge of this thing? Yeah, not important. Wow, she fend off all the different questions and all the accusation. Will this become a situation whereby it's getting easier and easier to divorce? Wow, I'm not expecting an answer. Yes, I hope not lah. But this is the situation right now. If you don't think about how to protect your assets for your children, if your child is at fault, then you kick your child lah, 活该. But if your child is not at fault, then how? You know what I mean? Or if nobody is at fault, they really mutually cannot get together after 5-10 years, then they really, really divorce. And your child, I go back to the slide earlier, your child didn't come to the talk today. Your child didn't take item number 5. Your child didn't come for the talk today. Your child received your inheritance, didn't put in the bank account and don't touch it. It will become matrimonial asset. Okay? On a happier note, just saw all the very sad things. On a happier note, if you are a property owner, which I think everybody is today in the room today, it's a very good news. SRS data from 1995, 30 years data, our property prices, obviously everybody already know, went crazy lah. If you're staying in HDB, it's about 2.5 times. If you're staying in landed, congratulations, it's more than 3 times. If you're staying in a condo, it's near to 3 times. So anyhow throw one property you bought 20 years ago, right, should make money. Okay? Unless you don't know buy where, then I don't know what to say lah. Who went for the show flat? No need to buy ahead. Later, later a lot of people ask you to drink coffee. Because they know you got money. Okay. $3,000 PSF, right? $3,000 PSF is going to be the norm, leh. I say already, I a bit cannot swallow my saliva. My 2 son today is 5 and 8 years old. Real one, real. My 2 son today is 5 and 8 years old. Every time I look at my wife, then I show her this article, then we look at each other. When they are 30 years old, How much is their property going to be? Today is 3,000 PSF eh. Okay lah, this one Holland lah. Holland central area, prime area ma. But maybe the HDB in Sembawang will cost 1 million and above in the future. You really don't know. You really don't know. Another example. Some of us, we have makan here before. Before it was so long time ago lah. Bought in 1980. 1980 is very long lah. I not born yet. Yeah, I born 3 years later. But 45 million. 45 million then is big money lah. 1980s, who can afford 45 million? You must be doing a big business already. 66 falls eh. And this is sold in 2013, 12 years ago leh. Can you imagine today how much this one will cost? Minimum 100 million and above one. Minimum leh. If your family got 100 million and above, really different category already. I want to show you this. If you want to buy property, you definitely for sure, right, you will know this chart one. Additional buyer stamp duty. So difficult to own properties nowadays. Am I right to say that? All of you, maybe if you're here in a room, you thought about, I want to buy under the trust for my children, but buy under the trust cannot take loan. Buy under the trust, a lot of consequences. You need to pay stamp duty first and so on and so forth. So imagine a scenario, between you and your wife today, you got 2 property. I don't care what property lah. You want HDB, 1 condo, 1 lender, 1 condo, whatever. Then you write a will. To my 2 property, I got 2 children. Each one give 50% lor. Because I'm fair ma. Father is fair. I give 50-50. Your 2 children each receive 50-50. So each of your children has 2 property count. Okay? I assume you live a long life. By the time you die, your children are already 50-60 years old. They logically will have a property themselves ma. Right? What if your children property, they have 1, they receive 2 from you as a property count, they have 3 property counts. 3 property count, you look at the chart over here. The good news is, when they receive your 2 property count, there's no need to pay ABSD. So our government still not so bad lah. You inherit, no need to pay tax. Okay? But what if your children want to sell their own property because want to be nearer to your grandchildren's school? You know how school recently got one lady got arrested because she forced a dress to go in the popular school, right? Yeah. You know the parents like me today quite crazy, I'm not so crazy lah. What if your children really want to buy a property near the famous school for your grandchildren? Then you leave 2 property for your children. Your children cannot sell their own property because you leave for them 2, they have 1, they sell the 1 that they have, they still have 2 ma. So they buy the one that they want to buy near the school is considered the 3rd one leh. The 3rd one is 3rd property count for Singaporeans is 30% leh. So if the 3rd property you buy Sky at Holland, right? Oh, good luck to you, man. Anyhow, throw Sky at Holland, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom is $3 million. You need to pay 1 million for duties. And the duties is paid in cash, cannot use CPF. Yeah. So how? Do you want your children to sell all the property that you leave behind for them? What if you bought properties in 1980s? You are the one from price index 1, now it's at price index 3. Then I'm thinking to pass to my children because I'm staying in a freehold. I have a landed. Then I pass to my children. My children need to sell because my children need to send their grandchildren to school. Do you want that? You see where I'm coming from? So most of the parents, right, that I speak to, especially those with freehold, be it landed or condo, they already know that it's so difficult to buy a property nowadays. They always tell me, hey, how to ask my children not to sell? Then I look at them, your will itself cannot lah. You can say whatever you want, right? But your children don't follow, nobody can catch them. I have clients who are 61 years old. The parents passed away 5 years ago. The parents say, sell my property, right? They still stay until now 5 years later. They're still staying. I think they will stay until a long time later. Okay? So how to pass down the gains that we have, that we enjoyed from our property journey to our children so that they will not be priced out of the property game? That's the biggest question over here. AI. AI is taking away all our children's job. Not all lah, maybe some. You see, it's happening in DBS, it's happening in many, many parts of the world, definitely. In the future, there will be no more entry-level jobs. Okay? You don't need an entry-level accountant, you don't need an entry-level lawyer, you don't need an entry-level, don't know what you do. Okay? MAS say that 1 in 3 finance shop will be transformed or eliminated by automation. Hopefully, it will be transformed lah. Okay? So, this time our children do what? Actually, I also don't know. Really, we also, as parents, right, we don't know what our children will do in the future when AI is coming to this situation. So, is this statement still true today? This is a very tough question, very philosophical question. Everybody will have a different answer, but this is something that you really need to think about. I met so many first generation wealthy, they really made their own wealth. They invested in the right thing. Their business is in the right place at the right time. They made a lot of money. A lot of them benefited from property lah. Their parents didn't leave anything. Their parents are struggling themselves. Then do they sell everything and just spend everything in their retirement? Or do they live for their children because of the environment in the future? Don't know leh. Something that you really need to think about. Most of the family who I talk to, they always say, yeah, no need to leave my children lah. Let them figure out themselves, right? Then I ask and ask and ask a bit further. Actually, it's not that they really don't want to leave anything behind. Logically, if your children are filial, they are nice children, you're quite close to them, good relationship and family, logically, you will want to leave something behind for them. Most of the people, they say, I don't leave anything here because my parents didn't leave anything for me, right? It's because usually they don't know what to do. They thought that leaving a lot of money behind, right, will spoil them and make them useless adults. Will make them, we call it trust babies. That means they don't do a proper job. They spend the money from the inheritance. They are just very noah people. If you take a picture, I strongly encourage you, go and read the article on the link there. Very, very interesting article. This article is from one of the head of the private family office. He talked to multi-millionaires and billionaires every other day. So he sum up, actually, it's not the inheritance that create a problem. It's actually your children's mindset, and that actually comes from the upbringing. If your children can be a self-starter, if your children can be a person that don't have to do something just for a reward, actually you can position your family as a second generation. It's just a steward of your third generation's wealth. Which recently brings me to the example. You know your Nippon paint at home? That one quite interesting. If you all don't know, you can go Google also. The Nippon Akong passed away recently. But the Akong give all the shares in the company to not the son, but the grandchildren. So the Akong skip a generation. The children, some are overseas doing their own thing, suddenly become billionaires. Yeah, because Akong give me a company share. But the second generation is running the show. So is that the idea? Is that a good idea? What are the pros and cons? It's something that we can examine. So how to address all this nonsense that Alfred just mentioned tonight? How to protect the inheritance for the children? How to hopefully, if you benefited from real estate, you can keep your property for your children without burdening them with the property count. How to protect them from personal risks, business risks, matrimonial risks, and so on and so forth. A trust, okay? If you are very, very, very new to the idea of a trust, this diagram actually says it already. If you have a will, you write in your will what you want to give and who you want to give to, okay? You follow the direction below, okay? You follow the direction below. But when your beneficiaries take over the asset, they might or might not be faced with the risk that I shared earlier. business risk, financial risk, car accident, even they promoted to be a director, they sign the wrong signature, they also kena. There's a lot of funny things out there nowadays. So when a person owns asset under their name, there's always a risk there. Fundamentally, even there's no risk, your children really have a very smooth life. Fundamentally, there's no risk. Your children might also not follow what you want them to do. How many of the children here follow what we tell them to do? I would say almost none, or especially the boys. Okay? So what's the other way of giving? So a trust is basically you don't give direct, you give it through the trust and you slowly give. Okay? The arrow, you go up to the trust, then you give from the trust downwards again. Okay? How you want to give, you can say, I want to keep my property, I don't want them to sell until there's an en bloc. Okay? If I'm not wrong in Singapore, if I'm not wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm also not sure, there isn't a major development that isn't en bloc but just died to zero in terms of the lease. Landed property there's a row in Geylang, they just evict the people and say that your lease ended, goodbye. But for major condo developments, I haven't seen one that went to zero and they evict the whole building of people. I haven't seen one yet. The oldest in question was People's Park Complex, but you are en bloc already, ma. Yeah. So actually you can say, all my properties I don't sell, put inside a trust. If my children want to stay, they can stay. If my children don't want to stay, rent out, get a rental income. Part of the income used to preserve the property, part of the income give my children. The property count is not on your children. Okay, I repeat myself, the property count is not on your children. Your children enjoy the property, your children benefit from the income from the property, they don't have the burden of managing the property. Okay? So just a snapshot. Today, we definitely cannot go into details how the whole thing works. If you think it's interesting, later on you can go back to the person that invited you today to ask him or her about more questions about this slide. Then I always say, okay, so can take a picture first. So Precept, we have a interesting product that's launched this year. So very often people will say, trust is very expensive, it's only for the very, very rich, I don't have so much money. So actually Precept, we launched a trust that costs $545. Okay, later I'll talk about costing in just one slide. So if you're a person, you are not a big time real estate person, you're not a business owner, your assets are rather simple, you really believe in insurance, or you're in a group whereby you believe in 1M65. You know what's 1M65? Yeah, that means everything squeezed back to your CPF. Try to maximize your CPF. There are people like that one. They have a couple of million in the CPF. Actually, a simple watered down version of the trust that can manage your CPF money and your insurance payout is also possible. So there are different ways to manage the legacy, and this is an option that is, I would say, everybody can afford one. We are coming to the end. So when you have a trust versus you have only a will, inside the trust, you can do a lot of different ideas, strategy. You can have a lot of guidance given. You can assist your children to do certain things whereby directly or indirectly. I'll give you a simple example. Last time, our parents always tell us, okay, you graduate already, you must work very hard. Then you become successful. Okay? Then the children nowadays tell you, no, you work hard, I become YouTuber. I earn more than you. I trade cryptocurrency, I earn more than you, but not now. Now the crypto market not so good. Okay. So how do we pass down certain values? Be it work hard, you need to be a very filial children, you need to 饮水思源, yeah, you need to don't forget your roots and so on and so forth. If you were to tweak certain things that you want to pass on in terms of the value, tied to ideas how you can arrange your asset inside the trust, that could happen also. I'll give you a simple example. So I have clients whereby they are very young clients and very young children. Inside one of the instruction, they say, when my children turns 35 years old, I want them to come to the trustee, show the trustee his or her income or his or her net worth. At 35 years old and every 10 years from then, from 35 years old, I will give the child a cash incentive 10% of their net worth or 25% of their income. So for their children that is managed to earn good income because we work very hard, right? Actually, they will also be incentivized. There's a carrot for them. But of course, I go back to the article earlier. We cannot just have carrots that's monetary in nature. Then your poor child will only just be working for the money to just try to get your carrot. Also not healthy lah. That's when some of the families, in fact, most of the families that we work with, they also put in charity. So I have some business owner clients, they say that they want to give back specifically to certain group of the society because this is the group that supported the business in the very beginning. Your mom and pop shop, your supermarket, your mini mart downstairs, now they have 10 chains. Last time they struggled, but the auntie uncle in the neighborhood supported them. Now they have 10 outlets. These are the people, your uncle, auntie, kopi at the coffee shop that supported your family. That's why you're rich today leh. So some parents, they wanted to give back to the grassroots, to give endowment fund bursary to the grassroots where they stay from, when they stay in. Also have done cases like that before. Some families, they want to give back to a religious organization. I have a family also want to give back to Cancer Society because Cancer Society helped the father when the father was suffering from cancer. Okay, so these are the things that you can also do. One very, very interesting thing that we always see people doing is this thing called the multi-generation wealth multiplier. Okay, on the first row on your top right corner. Later, I'll give you a simple example on that. Might or might not be applicable to your situation. Then, of course, you can encourage family unity. You can ease the financial burden from family planning. Okay? Some younger ones here, I don't know how many of you have, the younger ones have kids. But studies have shown during COVID, well, actually Singaporean, we thought that we save a lot, but actually we don't save a lot. COVID survey shows that actually 2 in 3 here don't have savings in the past 6 months. Quite bad, I thought. Yeah. So either we are doing something wrong or we are earning too little. Okay. Then there's also a survey to show that a lot of young people nowadays, they go into the situation called DINK, dual income, no children. Okay. Because they thought that raising children, actually it's not they thought, it's real. Raising children is not cheap. Actually, raising children is not cheap. You go to any childcare today, right? It's 800 to all the way to 2005. Okay. Minimally is $800 a month already. So calculated 500,000, 1 million, and so on and so forth. Averagely, raising a child will delay your retirement by 14 to 15 years. So I always tell my wife, wow, I don't know. I don't know, 2 kids, then we don't know when we need to work until. But kids are not easy nowadays, to be very honest. So why don't you consider help them to ease the burden? Because you want grandchildren, right? You want children to play with, right? Then help them a little bit lah. Maybe assist them in the education in the future, assist them in the medical related healthcare and so on and so forth. All these are the different things you can do with your trust. Okay, this is an example that we share that is not new. It started long way ago. You have been to America, maybe you have visited Rockefeller Towers. Rockefeller family, on paper, based on history, is likely to be the first family that started this concept. So they do it for a different reason, more for a taxation reason, not so much for, of course, also for the inheritance planning and so on and so forth. So some of the trust that we handle, inside the trust instruction, they say that ideally, I want my family money to be there for as long as possible. So the question is, if your capital in generation 1 is not, say, 100 million, not everybody out there has 100 million, put it that way. If your capital in generation 1 is a couple of million, for instance, payout from a property and so on and so forth, you have a few properties, you don't want to sell the property, how to make the money go on forever? How to make it evergreen? That's always the question that people ask us. Because they always say, oh, your trust fees is so expensive. Okay, how to make sure that I set up a trust, although I can pay the setup fee, but I'm very concerned about the trust fees. Later, I will talk about that. I want to debunk the myth today. Okay? So we tell them, if you're healthy, maybe you can consider a structure like this. When every generation die, the insurance pay back to the trust to top up your trust money. Okay? So be it insurance, be it investments, be it whatsoever, the end game you need to think of is how to top up the money that the generation one used from the trust. So when generation two dies, how to top up the money for generation three and so on and so forth. Strategies like that, very, very common in private banking. Nothing new. So these are some of the benefits. If you're very, very new to trust, just 8 pointers that's very, very different from having just a will. Okay? Certain things you can skip the probate, so your family don't have to wait for 3 to 6 months. More flexibility, accountancy, and so on and so forth. Preserve family values, which I mentioned. You can ask the trustee to organize family events. You can help your family and protect your beneficiaries from the unwanted eyes. Remember, when you suddenly know that you are rich, your primary school friends suddenly ask you to drink coffee. Okay? Build a family reserve. So I always like to equate the idea of having a family reserve, the same concept as Singapore having a Singapore reserve. During COVID, we easily can dig and dig and dig. Our then finance minister, every time go to the stage, wow, everybody very happy. Got ang pao already. If you have a trust, if you have sufficient assets, if you can preserve it using a structure, a governance, and so on and so forth, maybe there will always be a reserve for your children. Maybe your children can really, really, really pursue their passion and not just work in the job because it needs to pay the house installment. So I have a lady married with a young kid, set up a trust, assign certain assets in your trust, and so on and so forth. Her rationale is that she's really being torn apart by the family and the work. She's very rigid, doing very well in her career. But she said that if possible, I want to have a reserve. So just in case my children, I hope for them to have time for my grandchildren in the first 7 years of their life. I hope to be able to give them a reserve, a backing, so that my children don't need to work so hard for the first 7 years of my grandchildren's life. Can spend a bit more time with them, can bring them out to East Coast, and not just buy an iPad and show it to them. Okay? So not that we don't want to, sometimes the work, I'm sure that here with children or yourself, we are really, really torn apart by the work demands. Last but not least, before we end tonight, I just really want to debunk on trust is only for the ultra high net worth. If a couple has a 3 million asset today, estate means when a couple passes away, the total value of the estate between the husband and wife is just 3 million. So what could be the 3 million? Your house could be, one house could be 3 million already. Okay? If your house is not 3 million, you have a modest house, maybe you have a lot of investment, you have a lot of CPF, you have a lot of insurance payout, maybe you invested a lot in gold, I don't know. But let's say you just have 3 million between the two person. The setup cost for a couple, if you are below 65, is only, I cannot say only 10,000. 10,000 is still a lot of money, but it's 10,000. 10,000 is really, really, really a fraction of protecting your whole 3 million. Okay? So most of the people that we talk to, right, actually they don't mind, after understanding about the trust and the differences, they don't mind this setup cost one. What they are really, really, really concerned, maintenance. Exactly. Because they talk to their banker, the banker introduced to them the bank's trust, then suddenly they will think that trust is only for the mega rich. So I just want to give you a simple example. Again, I go back to the same couple. This time around, the 3 million is a liquid cash or investment. Okay? 3 million, if the couple set up a trust, 3 million goes into the trust eventually for the children. 3 million, we seek to generate, say, for example, lowest instrument, 4%. Nothing too exciting, okay? 3% on 3 million, we net off the trustee charges actually your family still got 77,000 per year in terms of income. I to say, you pay us already, your family members, your children, right, can still have 5 to 6,000 a month forever, without even touching your 3 million. Based on 3 million, the trustee fee is 13,000 a year. Is that a lot of money? It's a lot of money. Imagine you pay the trustee 13K a year, but you're not paying the trustee from your 3 million, you're paying the trustee from the income generated from your 3 million. You see where I'm coming from? And I will always say, if you one day do decide to set up a trust, please, at the very, very minimum, say, I want my trustee to invest into low-risk capital guarantee instruments, aiming for 2-3%. Because if you don't say this, Precept will just put into money market, which earns you 1 to 1.5%. But even at 1 to 1.5%, the income from 1 to 1.5% is also more than enough to cover your trustee fees. So fees, if you look at it in isolation, you look at the number, you look at this 13,000, right, you think that it's crazy. And this 13,000 is every year, not one time. You think it's crazy. But if you look at it from the grand scheme of things, about what you can pass on, the strategies that you can use, how you can protect the assets for your children, how you don't want to burden them, and so on and so forth. Actually, this is minusing in off from your investment returns. It's not even your money, right? Okay? So trust is actually really, really, really not so daunting and not so scary one. So after you learn about trust, you learn about estate planning, then of course I need to introduce Precept. Because we are today in Precept's office. Precept is a very, very rare model in Singapore. It's really a model whereby we can do everything under the same office. You don't have to go to a law firm, do a will, then the law firm talk to a trust company, then talk to so many people, then you have to repeat your story so many times. Precept literally can do everything under one roof. Okay? Precepts Trustee has a trust license with MAS, been in Singapore for about 17 to 18 years. Our parent company, the one level up, is this trustee called the British and Malaya Trustee. Okay? British and Malaya Trustee, you can Google them. British and Malaya Trustee is listed on Singapore Stock Exchange. It's the oldest trust company in Singapore with a history of 100 over years. Okay? So if you think that Precept 17, 18 years old still too young, actually the people above us, they are already the oldest in Singapore. Okay? So we are not new to the trust business. We have been here for quite a while. We have about $2 to $3 billion. These numbers are not updated. The last known is coming to 3. That either of family members already passed on, or family members who settled their asset into the trust when they are alive. Already managing more than $2 billion. And we set up 1,000 over trustees. 1,000 over trusts. And this $2-3 million, billions dollars that we're managing is only from 8% of the trust. So of all the trusts that we set up, right, many of them, the people haven't passed away yet. 8%, we are managing about 2 billion. So the remaining 92%, right, is to be unraveled. Eventually, we might need to shift office because it's just, we need more manpower. Okay? So what you see in the boxes below, certain corporate governance that we need to have in place because we are having an MS license. They need us to have certain level of approval. They need us to have the independent director. They need us to separate the trust funds from the shareholders fund. They need us to do a lot of things. So not any Tom, Dick, and Harry can go to MAS and say that I want to become a trustee. It's not so straightforward. Okay? So I just want to end off with this slide. Transferring wealth can be drama-free with early planning. So I want to thank you for taking 1.5 hours tonight on a Thursday night to come to listen to the talk. I think you come with an intention, you want to learn to start to do your early planning. Okay? So contested wills are going to be more and more common. You watch out. Again, I have so many newspaper articles to show you. In the next decade, it's going to be a mega wealth transfer era whereby the millennials will eventually be gone. There'll be trillions of dollars passing on to the second, third generation. We are going to see more and more contents and disputes on the newspaper. Okay? how to avoid all these things and how to make sure that your family is not even near all these situations is what we hope to help you to achieve. Okay? With that, that'll be all for today. Questions are welcome.